Hi, welcome to today's video in Helius's Solana Frontend Developer course. In today's video, you're going to learn how to create tokens on Solana. My name is Nathan Galindo. I'm a developer experience engineer at Helius. I'm based in Texas and I'm a full stack Solana developer. Feel free to reach out to me on X to ask me any questions about this course, Solana or Helius. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the project and explain to you what we're building. Then we're going to build out the project together. And then I'm going to teach you some React best practices and challenge you to take the project to the next level. Okay, let's get started with today's project. So I'm going to assume that you have everything you need to follow along with this course, including the course app that you can see here on my screen and all of the dependencies on your local machine that you need for Solana development. If you don't have any of these materials, I highly recommend you go to video 2 of this developer series, where we show you how to download everything you need and set up your Solana developer environment. So go ahead and reference video 2 if you need to get set up. Assuming you have everything you need, including your browser wallet, etc., I'm going to go ahead and follow along with this video series. So go ahead and open your project, go into the pages and then tokens folder, and then open starter and finished side by side like so. That's what I like to do. And then run the app on your local server using yarn dev. You should see an app that looks like this on localhost 3000. You can see it up here in my browser search bar. Navigate to project number 5, tokens. Click on preview where you can reference a finished version of this project. Now we're gonna go ahead and connect our Solana wallet. But let's first make sure that our browser wallet is in testnet mode and that we have, some amounts of DevNet sold to fund our transactions. So if all of that looks good, then we can go ahead and just click submit. Where here we create a token mint. We're going to confirm this transaction. We can see the address of our token mint and the transaction signature. If we click either one of these items, it takes us to the Solana Block Explorer, where we can reference this information. And we're going to go ahead and create our token account. And we can reference this information as well. Awesome, fantastic. So pretty simple application. Really all of the interesting stuff happens on the back end in the code, where we're going to learn about how tokens work on Solana. And what exactly is a token mint account? What is a token account? So we're gonna learn all of that today. Let's dive into the code. Again, have the finished and the starter files open under the tokens folder. We can go ahead and delete these parentheses and that boilerplate code, open up a return statement and open up some React fragments for now. You can go ahead and erase that dependency. Now let's go ahead and walk through this finished code. First, we're going to import these dependencies. I'm going to go ahead and type them out this time because I think it's important that you type out even the dependencies, even though sometimes I don't always do that. I think it's best that you do because the dependencies are what you use for Solana development, right? So becoming familiar with them is really important, and there's no better way to do that than to just type them out manually. It takes a little bit longer, it's a little bit annoying, but so be it. We're gonna port that from the Solana wallet adapter React library. And then these actually have nothing to do with Solana. They're just for providing a better UI UX. So, okay, this is a React application. So first and foremost, at the top of our functional component, we're going to define our state variables using the React use hook function. Use state hook. So the way we do that is we're going to initialize the state variable, which is that thing in purple, and then the function that we're going to use to update that state variable throughout the lifetime of our application. Because this is a TypeScript application, we're going to also define the data type of this state variable. And now we are setting the mint address, set mint address, use state. That's also going to be, that's actually not going to be a string. We're going to define that as type public key or undefined. And right now we're going to initialize that as undefined. Okay, fantastic. Now we're going to initialize a state variable for the transaction of creating our token account. That's going to be a string. And now the actual token account address. And that, is going to be as well a public key or undefined, initialized as undefined. Fantastic. Now we're going to get the variables for interacting with our wallets. First, I'm going to add some code. Awesome. Now this piece of code, if you've been following along with this course, should look very familiar to you. Basically, we are extrapolating functions and variables from this wallet adapter library to access information that we connect to our application via the Solana wallet adapter. So this allows us to grab our public key. This allows us to determine which cluster our wallet's connected to, mainnet, devnet, etc. And this is a function that allows us to send a transaction to the Solana blockchain. Awesome. Now this is some error handling. Error handling is wallet connected, right? This is a small function that we're just going to define up here called, I'm going to rename it check connection. It's an arrow function following ES6 syntax. And basically, we're going to check if the public key exists or does not exist, or if the connection does not exist, and that means there is no wallet connected to our application. And we're going to ask the user to please connect your wallet. And we're going to return true, else check if wallet not connected. A little bit more semantic. We're going to return false. Fantastic. Okay. So now that we extrapolated that error handling function, check if user's wallet is connected to app. Now we're going to create the business logic to create a token account on the Solana blockchain. So create a token account on the blockchain. Okay, fantastic. Actually, let's reverse that. Let's go ahead and write the business logic to create the mint account, because technically you cannot have a token account without having a token mint. And let's actually take a moment to explain that just for a moment. So what exactly are we doing here? So we're essentially going to create a token mint and a token account on the Solana blockchain. We're not necessarily creating the tokens themselves, and that's because I challenge you to extend this application when we're done with it to create tokens and populate your token accounts with those tokens. I challenge you to do that, but right now we're going to start off with creating this token mint and this token account, and we're going to learn what that's all about. So tokens on Solana, right? They require a token mint. What is a token mint? A token mint is basically the blueprint for that token, right? So let's think of any token on Solana. let's think of Bonk, right? So Bonk, the Bonk token has a token mint, right? That specifies the type of token it is, it defines its properties, total supply, decimal count, etc., right? The token mint is, like I said, the blueprint or a special account that is responsible for acting as the authoritative source for that specific type of a token, in this case, Bonk, right? We're talking about Bonk. And each token on Solana has a token mint account associated with it, right? That defines its properties and attributes, essentially. Now, the token accounts that you see down here is basically like a purse for that token, right? And the token account usually maps to a user's wallet or some other type of account. But the token account is responsible for actually holding those tokens, right? Those instances of this token mint, essentially. Now, the token mint, it's important to note that the token mint does not create the tokens, right? The token program creates these tokens, okay? So, token program creates tokens. Okay, so it's important to note that the token program is responsible for actually creating these tokens into existence, but it references the token mint to give these tokens the properties and attributes that as defined in their token mint, essentially. And then these tokens are stored within, token accounts, right? There's not necessarily one token account. There could be, thousands or millions of token accounts, right? Because a token account that stores these tokens is associated with, could be a user's wallet or another account, etc. So, hopefully this high-level idea makes sense to you. If you're still a little bit maybe confused, because again, these ideas can be a little bit hard to grasp the first time around, there are lots of resources on the Helius blog and just online in general. You can talk about, search up the token account model or the token model on Solana, and you should be able to find a lot of other helpful resources that can help you wrap your head around how this works. Now, let's get back to the code. So we can't have a token account without a token mint, right? Because without a token mint, well, we can't have tokens. So let's go ahead and create the instruction to create token mint. Okay, so we're gonna title that function create token mint. It's going to be an asynchronous function. It's going to take one parameter, event, and we're essentially going to use that argument to prevent our app state app from reloading like so. Events prevent default. And if you've been following along with this course, you've probably seen me use that little function quite a few times. Okay, so now we're going to check if our wallet is connected, and then if not, we're going to throw an error. Please connect your wallet. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so now that we check if the wallet is connected, now we're going to instantiate the items we need to create our transaction and then send that to the blockchain. So we're gonna first instantiate our token mint, and that is basically just gonna be a key pair. So we're gonna generate a new key pair using the generate method on the key pair object, and then we're gonna get the LAMP ports required for rent exemption. So what is happening here? Essentially, in order to store state on Solana, right? So such as our token account, you need to pay rent to the blockchain essentially, right? Now, if you pay a certain amount of rent, then you can actually be exempt from ever paying rent again, because rent is paid on an interval of time, right? I think it's every epoch. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that, but rent is paid, repeatedly over a period of time, hence the name rent, right? Like paying rent on your apartment or something. But like I said, if you pay a certain amount of rent, right, you can basically qualify your state for rent exemption, so you don't have to pay it again. So the way we do that is we use this method, get minimum balance. Oops, I think I passed it. Sorry, everybody. Balance for rent exemption. I'm actually just gonna copy and paste that. I think I'm doing something wrong. Awesome. And then we're gonna pass in our connection like so. Okay. Now we're going to create our transaction object like so. And we're just gonna start adding our instructions to the transaction right away. Okay, so what are we doing? Well, we want to create a new account, right? So whenever we want to create a new account on the blockchain, we have to invoke the system program in the create account method. And we're going to say this function is being called from the user's wallet, the user that's connected to our app. The new account public key is going to be our token mint public key, as we've generated up here. The space is going to be this mint size. We're going to pass in this LAMP ports, and the program ID is going to be the token program ID, right? Because we have to invoke the token program in order to create, to create this object on the blockchain. Okay, now we're going to create initialize mint instruction. We're going to pass in the token mint public key, the public key of our wallet, and we use the bang operator after public key to tell TypeScript that value will be populated. It's just type safety stuff. And then again, we're gonna pass in that token program ID to create that token mint. Okay, fantastic, simple enough. If you're still confused by what might be happening in this block of code, I recommend using ChatGPT. It helped me a lot when I was learning. Just paste that in and ask it, what's happening here? I have a Solana front-end application. I'm trying to create a token mint account, and it might give you a better explanation than I can. At least it might give you a more well-rounded understanding. Now, one thing I'm going to do here that I didn't do in the finished file is we're going to use a try catch block. So whenever you're creating asynchronous functions on your React application, whether it's Solana or just regular Web 2, it's always useful to use try catch blocks to catch when your API calls fail. And so we're going to open up the try block like so, and we're going to put in the code we want to perform. And we're going to do so like that. We're going to pass in our signer who's signing for this transaction. And if that succeeds, then we are going to populate our state variables with this new data. Token mint public key, just like so. Why am I getting set mint address? Yeah, okay, awesome. Now, what if this function call fails? Well, we're just gonna throw an error. Transaction failed. We're just gonna throw an error like so. And voila. Okay, so just like that, we have the business logic to create a token mint on Solana. Now that we have our token mint, we can go ahead and create the token account, because again, we can't have tokens without the token mint, and there's no point of the token account without tokens, right? So first we have the token mint, then the token accounts, and with that, we can create and store our tokens on the blockchain. So let's go ahead and create this instruction. Create tokens on the blockchain, const, create accounts. This is also going to be an asynchronous operation. We're going to take the event argument, and we're going to pass in that event argument to prevent the states from reloading. We're going to, again, check if the wallet is connected. If not, we're going to throw an error. Please connect wallet, like so. Simple enough. Now we're going to get into the business logic. I'm going to restructure this just a little bit. We're going to do this a little bit differently than how I did it here. Go ahead and write that business logic. So first we're going to instantiate our token accounts, and this might look a little bit similar to how we instantiated our mint accounts, but we're going to generate a new key pair like so. We're going to grab the space, account, there we go, account size. And then we're going to get the minimum balance for rent exemption. So we're going to grab that connection and get minimum balance for rent exemption. We're going to pass in the space that we grabbed for our token accounts. So pause for one moment. Why do we pass in this space variable when we're calculating for rent exemption? Because the amount of rent we pay is pretty much dependent on the amount of space our account takes up on the blockchain, right? I mean, kind of intuitively, if you have a higher square foot apartment, right? If you take up more real estate space, you're gonna have a higher rent payment, right? Similarly, if your account on the blockchain takes up more space, then you're gonna have a higher rent payment. So that's basically how that works. That's why we're passing in that variable to that function. And again, we're gonna get the token program ID, because we're gonna need to be invoking it when we create these items on the blockchain. So let's create that transaction object, and let's add some instructions to it. We're gonna invoke the system program again, because we're creating an account on the blockchain. And we're gonna say, from the user's wallet, we're gonna create this token account. It's gonna take up, that amount of space. We're gonna give it that much LAN ports, right? We're gonna fund it with that much SOL in order to make it rent exempt. And we're going to pass in the program ID of the token program, because this is a token account. Okay. Create, initialize account instruction, and then we're going to pass it the token account public key, the mint address, the public key of our user, and again, the token program ID. Fantastic. Okay, so just like that, we have our transaction. Now, again, we're gonna open up those catch try blocks. Oops. In order to perform the asynchronous operations of our application, we're gonna send that transaction within the try block. We're gonna pass in the transaction, the connection, and the signers, which is an array of this token account. Oops, let me fix that. Okay, fantastic. And assuming that transaction goes through the way we want it to, we're going to set up our new estate variables, just like so. Now, if this fails, we're going to do something very similar to what we did before. We're going to notify the user that the transaction failed, and we're going to throw some error messages. Okay, fantastic. So just like that, you've created the business logic to create a token mint account and a token account. Again, the token mint is used for instantiating new instances of this token mint, essentially, of a token, of a type of token. And the token account is used for storing these tokens. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start building the UI of our application. And that will pretty much be the end of this project. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Well, if you reference the finished version of our application, you notice that for each section, right, the token mint and the create account section, we're displaying two variables, right? The address and the signature. The address and the signature. So we want to create an array of objects that has the information that we want to display. And this way we can kind of programmatically loop over each array and just programmatically render these items without having to kind of repeat the same HTML elements over and over again. So let's do that right now. So create account outputs is going to be an array of objects, and each object is going to have a title, a dependency, which for the token account address, or sorry, for the token account is going to be the address of the token account, and then an href value, which is a URL string using string interpolation, which programmatically inserts the account address that we're creating. Awesome. Once you have that, let's go ahead and create the next item, transaction signature. You can kind of think of that as the receipt for the transaction. And that's going to be an account transaction like that. And you can actually just go ahead and paste in this href value. Fantastic. And so above that, let's go ahead and create this create mint outputs. And we're going to give it a title, token mint address, dependency. We're going to give it that mint address value, and href. You can go ahead and copy this URL value. I'm not going to hold it against you for not wanting to type out every single little item there. Let's go ahead and give it this title. Dependency, it's going to be the mint transaction value. Oops. And then finally, again, the href value. Okay, fantastic. And so with that, let's go ahead and open up a main HTML tag. We're going to give it a max width of 7XL. It's going to have some grids. We're going to specify that on any screen size larger than 6, it's going to have 6 columns. Each column is going to have a gap of 6 from each other. This thing is going to have a padding of 4, and the text inside of it, it's going to be white. Fantastic. So we have 2 main HTML elements, 2 forms. One form is going to be for the token mint, so we can add comments in here, token mint, and the next form is going to be for the token accounts. And we can open up this first form and get started on that. So what do we have here? Well, this form is made up of 2 divs, essentially. So this is a header for our app. And then we have the values to display, essentially. And this is true for this bottom form as well. So we can just populate those values as for now. Let's go ahead and create the styling for this form. And so that's going to have some rounded corners. It's going to be as tall as its content. It's going to have a custom background color, like so. Padding of 4. On small, anything larger than a small screen view, it's going to span. Six columns. And on larger screen views, it's going to start at the 2nd column and at the 6th. And we're going to define the function we want to execute when this form is submitted. And that's going to be the create mint function. Fantastic and simple enough. Now for the header, we want to use the flex property, justify between to separate the 2 items within this div, and then item center to vertically align these items. We're going to give it some title, and we're going to edit, give it that class name, property, and we're going to edit the information or the styling of this title real quick, and we're going to say create mint accounts. You can really give it any kind of name you want. And finally, we're going to provide the button on this mint account. Now, what kind of button is this? Well, it's in a form, so it has to be of type submit. And the styling on this button is a little bit large because we have some logic inside of it. So for the sake of brevity, we're just going to go ahead and copy and paste that for now, so that the way this video doesn't take up too much of your time. But I do recommend you maybe study how some of this CSS works, especially some of the more programmatic stuff like rendering CSS on certain conditions such as stabled or hover states. Okay, so just like that, we have our header. So now we're going to open up the body of our form, which is definitely the more interesting part. We're going to give it some styling, some spacing from the top. Again, a custom background color, some border, information. We're going to round out the edges, and we're going to give it a little bit of padding. Fantastic. Now we're going to create an unordered list. You can kind of think of each of these items as a list item. And we're going to give that unordered list a little bit of padding. Now we're going to open up some curly brackets because we're going to add some logic into the UI itself. The logic might look a little bit confusing if you're new to React, but it's actually quite simple. So remember how I said we're going to define the values we want to render on screen? Well, that's what we're doing here. We're going to render those values on screen. So we're going to grab that array of objects and we're going to loop over it using the map method. We're going to open up a pair of parentheses and then curly brackets, and we're going to extrapolate those values within those curly brackets, and then we're going to grab the index of the array item. And then we're going to open up a pair of parentheses to implicitly return each list item. But each list item, because we're programmatically generating these HTML elements, they require a key. We're just going to pass in the title. And then we're going to use string interpolation to programmatically insert CSS to a list item depending on a condition, right? So we're saying if the index does not equal 0, so if this is not the first list item, then we're going to add some vertical spacing. And that's essentially what makes these two items a little bit farther apart from each other vertically. So let's go ahead and type that out. Flex justify between items center, and then $, curly brackets, index does not equal 0. And, right, so if index does not equal 0, then we're going to add this bit of CSS. Fantastic. Now let's populate this list item with some content. Well, first, we're going to give it a p tag. And this is just the title. So simple enough. Now we're going to open up another pair of curly brackets because we're going to add some conditional rendering. So we're saying if the dependency exists, then we're going to render this a tag. And this a tag is essentially this information over here. So we're going to give it a few special values. We're going to say href, that's the link. And we're going to insert that href value in there. And then we're going to give it this target information. This essentially opens up the page inside a separate window. Same thing with this rel tag. And now we're going to give it some styling. Flexed, a custom color. You can really give it any color you want, but I like to show you how to add your own custom colors. And then we're going to give it some styling as well. Essentially, this transition all duration 200 allows us to have a smooth transition between hover state colors. So you might be able to tell how it's kind of, there's like a smooth transition between the colors white to blue. It's a little nice touch I like to add when I can, because I think it just makes the UI a little bit more enjoyable and modern looking. Now we're going to slice this information and we're going to add this icon that we've imported from Hero Icons. It's probably my favorite icons library. I highly recommend you use it. It's free. Okay, so just like that, we've pretty much created the token mint form. If we go to our starter file, you should see the token mint form. Now, obviously, I messed up my CSS somewhere along the way. Let's see if I can find that. Yep. So if I fix that, then my token mint form starts looking a little bit more like it should. CSS is a little bit tricky and tedious. People do not give it enough credit. Okay, moving forward, we're going to create our token account. It's going to be a pretty similar process, but please follow along and bear with me. Practice makes perfect. So first, we're going to give it some styling. Rounded large. It's only going to be as tall as its content. We're going to give it a custom background color. And again, we're going to define how much space it's going to take up on screen. Okay, just like that. We're going to, define which function this form is associated with. That's going to be the create account function. And then we're going to create the header. So this is going to be a flexbox item with justify between. Oops, made the same mistake again. Okay, justify between. It's going to use items center. We're going to give it the create account title because that's essentially what we're doing. And then we're going to give that text some styling. We can see it update right here in my browser next to us. Okay, let's create that button, that submit button. Let's give that some styling. And actually, again, for the buttons, because there is particularly a lot of CSS for those buttons, let's go ahead and copy and paste that. And the type of this button is going to be submit. Awesome. So we've created our header. And now again, let's create the body of the form. Text small, font semi-bold, some spacing from the top, a custom color, border 2, some border information, some border coloring, rounded large, and padding 2. Fantastic. Now let's create that unordered list, just like last time. And let's programmatically loop through the create account outputs array. Let's extrapolate those values that we want to grab. Let's open up a pair of parentheses to implicitly return a list item. Each list item is going to take a key. We're just going to feed it the title as a key and some styling that is conditionally adjusted. And you can go ahead and copy and paste that. I won't hold it against you. And now we're going to add a p tag. We're going to insert the title. We're going to give that a little bit of styling, some letter spacing. Then we're going to open up some curly brackets and conditionally render this a tag, which we're going to feed it the dependency. We're going to convert it to a string. I believe it's already a string, but we're going to convert it to a string just in case. We're going to slice it a little bit. We're going to add this icon. And we're going to fill in this a tag information. First, where does it point to? Well, it points to the href as defined here within the object, inside the array that we're looping over. We're going to provide target underscore blank and rel no opener, no refer. And we're going to give it some styling again. Custom colors, because custom colors are super awesome. And then some hover, state information. And just like that, I believe we've created our UI. So let's go ahead and test it now. We're going to add our wallet, connect our wallet to our app. We're going to approve our transaction, and voila, it worked. We can reference it just like so. Let's go ahead and go back and let's create this token account transaction, and fantastic. It worked. It works. I hope it works for you. If it doesn't, go ahead and check your console for error messages because we have been provided the code to log error messages to our console and debug that code. Use ChatGPT, scrub back to this video where I, walk through those certain sections that you think might be breaking in your own code. And that's today's project. So you learned about tokens, how to create them on Solana using standard front-end libraries for Solana React development. And you've kind of learned a little bit about how tokens work on Solana and how those data structures relate to each other on the blockchain. Thanks for watching this video. Feel free to get connected with me on X, to connect with the Helius team on Discord, or to learn more about Helius via our website. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace out.